Happy Monday, everybody. New week, same show. Curtis Wilkerson and Scottie Bordelon here for the pod at the Palace from Natty State Sports Studios in Fayetteville. Scottie, my man, it was fun while it lasted.
I thought you were going completely in a different direction when you said new week, same
Got him.
You would have been right on that one, too. Same old, same old.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we got to talk about a win for our last show. That was neat. That was a change of pace.
We don't know when the next one's coming.
That is a fact. Arkansas, hey, they stacked a pair of strong showings. Dare I say, it felt like maybe they had a little bit of momentum built, just a smidge. And they promptly travel down to Baton Rouge and face an NIT at best LSU team, get their doors blown off 95-74. Game was over as soon as they went down 7-2 early. John called it. They can't handle any type of adversity at all. They trailed for 37 minutes. It's the fourth 20-point loss of the season that equals their total in 4 seasons of 20-point losses. That's it's just not great. They're 11-11. They're 2-7 in the SEC. It's back to square one. I don't know about you, brother, but that was as frustrated, I think, as I've ever been watching a Razorback basketball game. It was ugly.
Yeah, like I don't even really know what to say about it. Like,
the good news for the listeners, we ain't gonna say much about it.
And we don't have another game to look ahead to. Like, we're not gonna look ahead to the next game until Friday. So we got like 4 days until we can talk about Arkansas's next game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think you're right. John was exactly right. Like, this team gets punched in the face one time, it seems, and that's just it.
Fold it up.
I know we've both got a list of disappointments that we're going to go over, and that's probably firmly in both of ours. Just like you got no grit, no fight, no pride about you. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I enjoyed watching a team less.
Yeah,
play less. Like, and I'm to the point with this team where I'm actually very fine with them not having a midweek, because I don't want to watch this right now. I'm just not. I'm not in a place to watch it. And I don't know where Eric stands right now, whether he would want to have a midweek to keep playing, or if he just wants to practice with these guys all week.
Maybe neither.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough place to be in, isn't it? 22 games into a year.
Yeah, it really is, man. And we'll kind of get to it at the end of like what now, because this is it's unprecedented territory for him here, at least. I don't know, man. Like the only dot I can connect with what changed between that Missouri game in Columbia and this game in Baton Rouge is LSU just landed the first punch. And it didn't take much, man. They just got up by 2 possessions there early, because I thought Arkansas was playing hard out of the gates. I remember thinking like, hey, they're kind of flying around.
Yeah, as Arkansas didn't give up a bucket the first couple minutes, and you're like, man, they look connected on, defensively. Jalen Graham came right out of the gate, got you a bucket, and then what even happened after that? Like,
it was a disaster class.
You missed 3 straight shots. You don't hit another shot until 5 minutes left in the or 5 minutes gone in the half, and then LSU, finally sees the lid come off the rim. A couple minutes into the game, and then they made 8 straight shots.
Yeah, there was a point pretty decent way into the first half where I remember somebody saying in our chat on the live stream, LSU shooting 88% from the field, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny." But then I looked and was like
8 out of 9.
Like, this is nuts, man.
Unbelievable.
Just brutal. And I don't know. Like, yeah, you get down a couple possessions, they fold up for the night. No response to adversity. The effort went out the window again. Kai and Muss are yelling at each other. Battle gets benched. L. Ellis sits and watches again. It's just like the season-long struggles put back on repeat. So I don't have anything else to say about this game, Scottie, because there's no analysis to be had. That, like, if you want to hear what happened, like, please go run it back on some of our other episodes after the South Carolina game, after the Ole Miss game. It's just the same thing, kind of rearing its ugly head, just with different guys involved this time, because they have no idea who the hell should be on the floor and who shouldn't.
Who really don't. And I think the one thing that bugs me the most from that game is, you clicked enough on offense at Missouri to be able to get away with giving up 10 threes, And granted, 3 of the threes I think that Missouri made were in the last couple minutes of that game, and so it's kind of whatever. You had a double-digit lead until really late, but that's still like I said it on the last episode. Not every offense that you're going to play is Missouri. Like they're going to be like other teams can make threes and score elsewhere.
Yeah.
LSU made threes, made a dozen of them, and they were able to score elsewhere. But the threes really hurt you. Like you gave up 12. Arkansas shot, how many did they make? Arkansas shot 13. LSU made 12.
Yeah.
And you got no answer for a big that can shoot. Like we've talked about that ad nauseum, dude.
Unreal.
Any big that can shoot is probably going to get loose on Arkansas. Will Baker, Arkansas made him look like Drew Timme with a jumper.
Literally. And it kills me, man, because people are, hitting me up in the chat and on Twitter like, well, Will Baker's he only is shooting 29% on a season. Guess what? BJ Mack was not shooting well from 3 for South Carolina. Anyone who has the possibility of making a 3 from the center position for an opponent is going to light Arkansas's ass up. It's just going to happen every time. Will Baker can make a 3. We knew it was coming, and it did, and they made no adjustments. And maybe the one time they tried to was when Kai is, screaming so loud it must, there's spit flying out of his mouth. It's just a mess. And whatever, like I don't want to steal too much of our thunder because like there's a full week between games now before they host a Georgia team that blew them out once already. So and just for the record, so people know, like we're gonna dedicate our entire Wednesday show to portal preview, like all over the board. We're gonna power rank our needs. We're gonna talk about some different guys. We're gonna really dive into it. Today, we're gonna take time to air out our grievances because this has been just an incredibly frustrating season to watch. I'm sure Muss and the team feel the same way, although it's on them, and I'm sure the fans feel the same way too. Scotty, we've been exchanging messages all weekend, man, and I know we both have a pretty lengthy list of disappointments with the way the season has gone. So I think we just need to kind of get these off our chest. And if it sounds like we're, kind of crapping on these guys, well, we are, because this is it's just not okay, and it falls well below expectations. They set the standards for themselves, and they've fallen short of it. And some of this stuff, quite frankly, we might call it disappointing, but a lot of it's just inexcusable. And I don't know what all's on your list. I do know what all's on mine. I bet a lot of them overlap, but I want you to start.
Yeah, they probably do overlap quite a bit. At the top, it's just a lack of an identity on either end of the floor. Like coming into this year, if somebody would have said Arkansas's offense is outside the top 100 in efficiency, I would have said you're crazy. Mm-hmm. Somebody would have said you're outside the top 120 in offensive efficiency, said you're insane. Arkansas is sitting at 135 in offensive efficiency. In conference games, they're last. In defense, they're outside the top 100 in efficiency at 105. And then in league play, they're 11th. It's the lack of identity has just been, it's been alarming, head scratching. And I think where it really hit me the most, I feel like a game like UNC Greensboro, not supposed to happen. But, every now and then a team's just going to get you on a bad night. I thought that might be what that was. But then the Lipscomb game rolls around, and Arkansas's up 20. It seems like they're rolling. And then they give up that lead and should have lost the game.
Yeah.
And after the game, I'm thinking to myself, like, if this team had an identity on either end, we would have seen it pop up in the midst of that collapse. Mm-hmm. But, like, they didn't know who to go to on offense. They didn't know what they wanted to do on offense. They've got no connectivity on defense, and then that leads to giving up 20-point leads to a team that, as of right now, is 14-10 and almost 500 in its league. And that's just, it's been recurring all year. You just don't know who you are on offense and what you can count on from night to night. It's just, it's gross.
Yeah. And I think, a good amount of it goes back with this, and this is one of my disappointments, is just, let me preface by saying, and people got so mad about this on Twitter when I put this short out yesterday, but it just is what it is. The way this roster has been managed in terms of lineups, rotations, it's a joke. It just hasn't been good. And it is on Muss, and it is also on the players. Like, it is very much a two-way street here.
Yep.
12 lineups, 12 different starting lineups in 22 games is absurd. That's crazy, and that's signs of big-time issues. And that doesn't even count into. I guarantee you they've had more lineup combinations than anybody in the country at this point.
I'm looking through SEC schools. Alabama's got 5.
Okay.
Let's take our time going through this.
Yeah,
What else are we going to do? Auburn has played. Auburn has had 4 different starting lineups.
Okay.
So we got 5 and 4. Let's go to South Carolina, see what they're doing. South Carolina has played 4.
Okay.
So these are teams at the top of the league.
Mm-hmm.
You got 5, 4, and 4. I believe that's right. It's early.
It is a little early.
Tennessee has had 2 different starting lineups.
Interesting, a top 5 team.
Another top team.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Kentucky's probably one where it's a little bit of flux just because they haven't had their full roster available all year.
Yeah.
7.
Oh. I mean, there you go.
Let's go to Florida.
Now, let's see.
Florida, 5.
Yep.
Ole Miss, 2.
Oh.
2.
Okay. Yeah.
Where Texas A&M. Guess on Texas A&M.
1. They had Coleman out for a while. 2.
7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think Arkansas is just running away with this thing.
Yeah.
Just from what I can tell.
It's a complete. It's probably higher than Missouri and Vanderbilt's too, and a lot of people say, well, Muss does this every year. He does it every year early on, and then he finds his way, and he finds the guys who belong in the rotation, who settle into roles, and then they rock with the same starting lineup in the top 6 or 7, and that's what coincides with the turnaround. And so they use 12 starting lineups last year entirely, and that's given Nick being in and out of the lineup and them trying to reintegrate him late in the year. They tried the Twin Towers thing. Like, hey, they did a lot of experimenting. They're at 12 already this year, and there's still a month of the regular season to play.
It's crazy.
It's absurd, and it's a big problem. And I think the players, some of it comes on their shoulders because they have been just dreadfully inconsistent, and it's very difficult for a coach to decide what the identity of his team should be when he has no idea what the hell he's going to get from a guy from night to night.
Absolutely.
But it's also very much, I might actually put it more so on Muss because the reactionary stuff here, I think, has crushed the confidence of some of these guys. And it reflects in their minutes, it reflects in their production, and it reflects in their energy on the floor. People can look and say, and we'll get into the shooting in a minute, I'm sure, but people can look at me and say, Jeremiah Davenport's not a good shooter. And I can say, bullshit. He's hit over 200 threes over the course of his career. It hasn't translated here. Why? He didn't just suddenly forget how to do it.
That's a great question.
El Ellis, I get it. He was at Louisville. Louisville stinks, but he's been a productive player everywhere he's been. Not here. Why? Yeah. And I think I have a pretty good idea for why it might be the case. The only guy who's played consistent minutes on a nightly basis that hasn't had you start, but we're going to set you in the second half. You play 30 minutes one night, you don't take your shooting shirt off the next. It's Tremont Mark.
Yep.
And he's their best player by far.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. That's the case because he's been the most consistent, but he's the most consistent because that's been the case.
Yeah.
And sure. it's just a lack of trust and continuity, and it reflects in the chemistry, and it's an entire freaking mess. And they don't have an identity right now. They're not gonna have one.
No.
And I think that's the biggest problem with this group. And somebody asked me yesterday on Twitter, like, well, what lineup would you roll out there and want to have out there consistently? I don't know. And so, I don't blame Muss at this point for continuing to tinker and try different things. But really, the only thing that he hasn't done at this point is pick a 5, roll with them. Through the good, through the bad. You've got your guys, and that doesn't mean they play every second, but you just got to have some consistency there. Hell, even a couple years ago, they were starting Connor Vanover every game for consistency, and the dude barely played.
Yeah.
But guys knew, okay, This is how it's going to start. We're probably going to get to the first media. Jalen Williams, you're coming in, whatever. Guys had an understanding of their role. They had an expectation of what their minutes were going to look like. And I think had that have happened a lot sooner with this team, then we'd have a little bit better by way of consistency. Right now, it's just a disaster.
Yeah. I thought, when Arkansas competed with Kentucky on their home floor, I think Eric only, like, he played what he threw like Denaje and Lawson Blake and Cade Arbogast into that game late, but he stuck with 8 guys.
Yeah.
For the most part. And I'm thinking to myself, man, going into Missouri, if Eric felt like he could count on these 8 guys against a team like Kentucky, you might see that roll over a little bit into Missouri, and it kind of worked that way. And then it's, you get down early against LSU, and then here comes Joseph Pinion.
Yep.
And then Joseph Pinion's out there, and he's played like 7 or 8 minutes. He's got 1 shot up, and so then I'm wondering,
he's given up
why,
like 5 baskets.
And then I'm wondering, like, why is he even out there?
Right.
Just to finish the number of starting lineups for every school in the league. LSU 8, Georgia 4, Mississippi State 5, Missouri 9, Arkansas 12, Vanderbilt 12.
Oh, there we go. So there's your company. There's your company.
Right now, it's the team you'd be matched up with in the SEC tournament,
Yep.
I believe, if it started today.
And they would probably kick their ass if the game happened today, because they would probably.
I mean, Vandy's rolling now.
Care.
They just beat Missouri.
They did just beat Missouri. Good on them for beating.
Shout out to us for sprinkling on Vandy the other day.
Exactly, yeah, and shout out to Vanderbilt for just making it clear that Missouri's the worst team in the league, because boy, they looked like it the other day.
Absolutely, not a good week for Missouri.
To go along, and this kind of goes along, I think, with identity, because in the past it's been defense and toughness and grit. They ain't got none of that, and I think that for me is the most disappointing thing with this team, is just the lack of killer instinct and fight with this group. It's so bizarre to me that they're kind of front runners. It's, hey, if things are going good, that's great, but boy, the first sign of adversity, even in the win against Texas A&M, they got up big, but they got lemon booty there,
Big time.
And we talk about the Lipscomb game, and so it hasn't been a situation where it's like, oh, if they're rolling, they're rolling. Not really. Like, it doesn't take much. It takes like a 6-0 run for things to start to get dicey, but they get down and they just fold. And between that and just a lack of pride, for lack of a better term, like in Bud Walton Arena, it's baffling to me, because we've talked about it before. Like, that's what Muss said, in his opening press conference, is they're always going to play harder than anybody else. Like, there will be no doubt. You might not win every game, but damn it, they're going to give the effort. And it just hasn't happened. Like, they're not playing for Muss. They're not playing for each other, and you can't tell me that they are. I just don't understand it. Like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't think we are ever going to understand it.
No.
My second bullet point was lack of toughness.
Yeah.
But mine, I think it's fake tough.
Yep.
It's kicking somebody like you're a 3-year-old in the Bahamas when you're 6'11" and think you're an All-American. It's flagrant fouls. It's technical fouls. I wrote down, I said, it's like a kid who only wants to pick on kids who are smaller than him.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like. And it's weird to even say that, and I had pause even writing it, because Purdue, Duke, big boys. Literally the biggest boy.
Right.
Your large adult child, Zach Edey, you went after him. You went after Filipowski. And so it's like it's almost like you needed that shot of courage, though, to do it. And I think that shot of courage was an electric atmosphere at home. Otherwise, I mean, I just think you're like, okay, but can we pick on, like, can we fight somebody else? It feels like it's a lot of fake toughness, and it's just it's a facade.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it really is.
I don't know. My next bullet point, I'll kind of snake this. Player leadership. I wrote down, I don't know who that guy is, and it's a problem because we're 22 games in.
Yeah. Well, one of them quit. One of them who they thought it was going to be quit, and then the other one is hurt or sore or whatever. Like, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think it has to start with your returning guys who've been in the fire with you, who have been part of these successful teams. And even though Brazil was hurt last year, like he was around for all that, because they're the ones that are going to establish the culture. Like they set the tone and the standard for all the newcomers. And I think it's very clear that if that was the case, they set the wrong one or they just didn't do it. But yeah, I mean, that's sorely lacking. I'm with you with this team. The best teams are player led. And I feel like every year we've had an instance like after a game or in a press conference where Muss has said, yeah, there were a lot of conversations in the huddle and I didn't have to say a word. Oh, so-and-so, stepped up and had this to say. And who commands the huddle? Do they even huddle?
I think the last thing that we heard that came out of a huddle was the Duke game. Jeremiah Davenport looked at Eric and he was like, can I let that thing fly?
Yeah.
Like that's the last thing I feel like that we've heard a player say from a huddle. And usually like when you've got, voices or guys that are willing to speak up, like coaches want to let people know that that's happening and it's not just a coach-led deal. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know who talks. Who talks? We know Kai talks, but it's like, seems like it's like comes with an arrow,
right?
Yeah, I know. I just don't know.
I don't know who's saying a word that these guys are that's resonating, throughout the locker room. I'm gonna go into, and I'm kind of towing a fine line here, but I am gonna get into some specific players because I think it's fair to point out like it's been a disappointing year from Brazil and Devo, and so to get to the leadership aspect, and again, like I love those guys, and they're good kids, and they're fun to cover, but just strictly basketball production, like those were your two preseason All SEC guys.
Yep.
Brazil, people were thinking he could be a lottery pick, and I don't know that I'll ever understand exactly what's happened after the first 10 games or so, but the fall off has been drastic production wise. I don't know what happened there that's impacted. I don't know if it's his confidence or, what it might be, or maybe, maybe the knee really is bothering him. It's still disappointing.
Do you remember the last game he scored in double figures?
Shoot. One of the early SEC games, like, did he hit 10 against, who's the second one they played?
They played Georgia.
Georgia? Did he get 10 on them?
He had 9. He had 11 against Auburn.
Oh, okay.
But it feels like he's scored in double figures twice since the Furman game.
Yeah.
Furman.
Right.
The Furman game was on freaking December 4th.
Yeah. I mean, come on, man.
I mean, our lives were completely different on December 4th.
Yeah, they were. They were.
Good Lord have mercy, man.
Yeah.
That's like twice. It's twice in 2 months.
Right. The defensive effort, I don't. And I also think it's criminal the way he's been utilized in the offense. Like, if you want to be more assertive, put him in positions where he can be assertive successfully, not running around on the wing. Get him in the dunker spot. Get him rolling to the rim as a lob threat. Get him in the pick and pops. They just haven't done it, and that's very disappointing for the main reason. And I'm not disappointed in Brazil, but just in what they've gotten from him because they built the roster with him as the centerpiece. Like he was the focal point. They made that very clear. And so if he's not that guy for whatever reason, you wonder why you can't find an identity offensively. Well, that's part of it. And then with Devo, and obviously like the way this has all gone down here recently is disappointing. And I mean, who knows, what's going on. And again, like we hope he's all right and hope everything is well there. From a basketball standpoint, though, he's coming off an SEC all-defensive team season, his best basketball of his career, and it wasn't just because he, took a dump on Kansas. It was because of everything he did in SEC play, averaging double figures. He shot 40% from three, and he entered the draft, and he was never going to get drafted, but he had workouts with some teams. Could have gone the undrafted free agent route, or could have gone overseas and started making money. Came back. Yeah, I'm sure NIL played into it, but to up his stock. And so the people who've been saying, well, like he's just trying to find his role with this team and he's taking a back seat so the other guys can. No, bullcrap, dude. Like you're the senior leader. You're one of 9 guys in the SEC who's been at the same school for 4 years.
Yeah.
he's got to take command and set the tone, and everybody else has to work in around him.
Yeah,
and that just never happens.
There's just no alpha.
Right. There's no alpha. That's exactly right. And it's disappointing. The next bullet I had was just 3-pointers, and I mean that on both ends of the floor.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The 3-point defense, there's nothing to say about it other than it's just been abysmal, and it's just,
almost 40% in league play.
Yeah,
now.
man, and you've written about it, and the numbers they're startling. It's just,
I think Arkansas has now given up 9 or more threes. I think 6 times in league games, and they've played 9 of them.
Yeah,
they played 9 SEC games.
That's not going to get it done, and we hear the deal about, well, we're doing the same drills we did when we led the country, and change them. I'm sorry. Like, I get it. I understand, it's a proven method.
Yeah, I think
it's not working with this group.
I think players learn different ways. Like,
yeah.
I've got kids that one of them's visual, one of them's, you just have to, like, I would have to get on a whiteboard and show him, and then the other kid, I have to teach him a completely different way. And I think that's the same goes for players, man. And some of them, maybe they're just not capable.
Maybe not. Yeah.
I just don't know that they're capable.
And if you keep trying to rotate in a different guy every time somebody doesn't do it the right way, and you've been doing that for 22 games and it doesn't work, maybe you do something different schematically that fits the personnel that you have. I mean,
yeah.
Because the same drills aren't working. And I know they've worked in the past, but, I mean, come on. But the 3-point shooting is almost more disappointing to me, Scotty.
You thought you might be able to, maybe because Arkansas, obviously their focus in the offseason was to get more offense.
Yes.
So you maybe should have gone into this thing understanding that there was going to be a drop-off in 3-point defense, maybe at least a little bit. Like, we didn't really – these guys, when we highlighted them in the offseason, when they committed or signed or whatever, yeah, they're going to be good offensive pieces, we think, like, if things go right, but – we don't know. We really don't know what kind of defenders they are. There's not, unless you've got a subscription to Synergy, you can't really tell what kind of a defender somebody is unless you watch like a ton of their film.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we should have expected that, but to not even be able to, in some cases or some nights, offset giving up 8 or 9 threes by burying 9 or 10 of your own.
Right.
That's just, that hasn't been there at all.
No, the fact that this team has gone from, one that was supposed to be and should have been on paper Musselman's best 3-point shooting team since he got here. The fact that it's gone from that to he's literally set a mandate that they can't shoot them. Are you freaking serious? Last year you were damn near bottom in the entire country in threes attempted and threes made. It's a huge issue. Huge issue. It's one of the biggest things that held them back offensively last season. And you spend the entire offseason building the roster for that not to be the case. And now here we are in February shooting fewer threes and making fewer threes than they ever have before.
Yeah.
With the roster, it doesn't do anything else well. That's damning for this team. It blows me away. So they shot 6. They attempted, they were 4 of 6 against Missouri. And everybody's like, oh, clap, clap, bravo. You beat a team that sucks. And then they were 3 of 13 against LSU. And I remember us sitting there in this room right over here during the live stream, and I was saying, hey, you know what? You're down by 20 early in the second half. Maybe you let them shoot some threes because I bet you LSU is going to keep making them. Like, it's math.
Yeah.
3's more than 2.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to get back in the game somehow.
And it's statistically likely that your defense is going to give up threes. And so you're not going to get back into a game by giving up a 3 and then getting a 2 or getting to the free throw line and splitting. You're just not.
Do you think that's why Caleb Battle didn't play after the 8-minute mark because he shot a couple threes?
I think it was a combination of that and every 2-point attempt he's putting up now is getting blocked.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I really do. And I think one of his threes even got blocked the other day. So I didn't think I would see that either. I'm a little bit disappointed he got a 3 blocked. Because I heard, like, when I did a commitment analysis on him, talked to a guy from the Philly Inquirer who covered him, and who was like, he's not going to have a problem scoring in the SEC. He gets so much lift on his jump shot that, unless you're just like freaky long and athletic, you're not going to be able to contest. But I think people have figured out that, kind of the elevator to get to the shot. If you just get your hand like on the first floor, you can disrupt it.
Right. Well said.
27.4% from three in SEC play this year. Last year's team was 32.3%. This team is like markedly worse, like 5% worse from three in SEC play than last year's team that, had Jeff Goodman so riled up when we were watching that UConn game. He spit all over my face.
He did. He did do that.
And now this team is worse shooting. So I guess it's almost a good thing that we're not going back to the tournament, because that he would have found a seat to watch Arkansas and he would have been letting spittle fly everywhere.
Just spittle all over the place.
We're just gonna be able to avoid that at least.
Spittle that smells like bourbon is all over the place. This is wild, man.
The next thing I've got is, I mentioned it earlier, it's not fun to watch. I don't remember a team since I've been on the beat. I jumped on the beat early in the 2017-18 year, and this is the least fun that I've had watching a team. And I thought last year's team, at times, we would, when we were working at other places, we would talk obviously about the team, and just like, I'm almost ready for it to be over. I'm just like, it's just not been a fun year to cover this team. But they found a way to beat a good team that, almost made everything else worth it. I don't look forward to watching them. And I backtracked, or not even backtracked, but the other day on the Friday pod, I'm like, I'm kind of looking forward to watching the bigs play.
Yeah.
Now I don't I'm not even looking forward to the Georgia game.
I'm not, and I hate that, because there's really not much better than being able to go to Bud Walton.
Get an update on Silas Demery, basically, from that game.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
maybe we
about it.
missed a guy,
Yeah.
that we can add to the board. It's not. I'm anxious to see what the crowd looks like.
Ooh.
I bet it ain't gonna be great, man.
Probably not.
And they don't have anybody to blame but themselves. And that goes for the guys who just can't seem to string together effort on a night-to-night basis, and the staff, they just can't seem to figure it out. I'm not accusing anybody of not trying here, because they are, but you got to find the buttons that match. You got to make it work. You got to fit the pieces together.
Yep.
And it just hasn't happened. And I wonder, like, at what point they get checked out, and maybe they already are. I don't know, but you keep hearing them say, "Well, we just got to keep working. Like, we got to keep getting better. We got to do different things." But just not getting the results is bizarre to me. I never thought we'd be in this type of situation.
Yeah. I've got one more.
I was gonna say, if you have something else, throw it out there. Yeah.
I'm disappointed that Eric isn't more upset after losses.
I was just about to say, do we need him to just freak the hell out?
Because I'm disappointed that he's not more upset after losses, because to me that is a huge sign that he knows this roster just doesn't have it.
Yep.
And that's it. It's just like, he can tell them that they don't have the traits of past teams and they don't play hard and whatever, and he's had to say it so much. It's like, at a certain point, you just stop saying it, because it's not, those guys aren't listening. It's pretty clear they're not listening when he's talking to them. He's not, and they're definitely not listening when he's talking to us. Mm-hmm. And so, I feel like he's disappointed, because he kind of knows that they're just not going to get it.
Yeah.
And that is so frustrating, because I figured at 2-7 in league play, and we haven't had like a irritable Eric situation after a game. It's just like, the thing that has kind of struck me most is like, what do you want me to do? Not keep trying different combinations or whatever. He's just like, I think the quote of the day on John's show today is going to be like, I don't know, Bob.
Yeah.
It's all come down to I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I used to dread it, but I miss the, post-game Zoom after a tough road loss, when Muss just has his head down on the desk, his hair's all over the place. Mm-hmm. You ask him a question, you don't know if he heard you. He's like 10 seconds and he raises up. And
I do appreciate that he's still, like, he's being insightful still.
And I do appreciate that he's I mean, he is answering questions the best that he can. And even like in the tough situation with Devo, like what he said to Bob, he's like, hey, I appreciate the job that you have.
Yeah.
He's still been good to us, but I kind of want to ask him a question that I know will piss him off and see if he'll yell at me just to get him fired up. You know, sometimes you do that with a player. You know, might just ask something stupid or pointed just for him to be like,
Hey,
well, Curtis.
There might be a Zoom this week.
Maybe.
You might get that chance.
I might go to Sassy's. Just hang out in the crowd, put a mask on, and
slip Z $5 so you can get
give me the
microphone.
mic Z. It's just it's a mess, man. And what stinks about it is there's still 9 games left in this season. Like the games are going to get played. You remember last week before the Missouri game, I was telling you about the thing at Torvik where you can do the tourney cast simulation based on how you do the rest of the year, like, you know, where you would be in the picture. And at the time, it was, you know, if Arkansas went 9-2 with the only losses at Kentucky and at Alabama, they'd be 4 teams out of the mix, you know. Well, I did it yesterday, and if Arkansas went 9-0, undefeated the rest of the way, so that would mean beating Tennessee at home, would mean winning at Mississippi State, would mean winning at Texas A&M, would mean winning at Alabama, and winning at Kentucky. They went 9-0 the rest of the way, which would get them to 20-11, and it'd give them 11-7 in SEC play. They would be 8 spots away from an at-large bid.
Jesus.
Undefeated the rest of the way, and they've dicked around so much here that they would be still on the outside looking in. And it's a simulation, so, you know, there's probably some variance there, but I think that tells you how bad this thing is.
I feel like these last 9 games might be a simulation.
I feel like they might, too. I don't...
I'm almost to the point where I think this week is not good for them.
I agree.
I think it's just more time to be in your head about everything.
I agree.
And I don't know what more practice time is going to do.
If I was Eric... I know they didn't practice yesterday on Sunday. I wouldn't have practiced today either, Monday. Like, I'd give them 2 or 3 days and just get away. You know what I mean? And then come back and see what you can do there. But so what now, I guess, is my question, because you're not playing for an at-large bid. Like, you can play the card of, we just want to be playing our best, you know, come March. That way we can go to Nashville and maybe, you know, steal it at the SEC tournament. Okay.
I mean, at this rate, you're going to have to win 4 games in 4 days.
Exactly. Like, yeah, you're nearly locked into Wednesday sadness. And I don't see, I mean, what's best case scenario for this team realistically in the league? Like 6-12?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Like, do you think they can beat Georgia at home right now?
No.
They're not beating Tennessee at home then.
No.
Not winning at Mississippi State.
No.
Not winning at A&M.
Nope.
You can beat Missouri here.
You can do that.
Might beat Vanderbilt here.
Might could do that.
So what's that? 1 win? 1? And then you got Kentucky, LSU, Bama to close.
Yeah. So I look at it and I say,
hell, you might be looking at 3 or 4 league wins.
Yeah. I mean, it's troubling. And then, okay, and there also isn't a future to build for, because you're staring down a complete roster flip here anyway.
I think the future to build for is like very individual.
Right.
It's like, what's best for TB right now? Tremont Mark, I think we both believe that he's got a pro offensive bag, but where that is professionally, don't know. So thinking about him too, like I'm wondering if we're getting close to the point where guys are just like, I just need to be healthy for whatever's next.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder about it. And, you know, you've tried different lineups every night. You've benched guys. You've tried letting some of them rock, and then they go south for a game, and you don't hear from them for 2 weeks. Like, they're not playing hard Like, what do you do? Like, I mean, Scotty, tell me. But, like, what's the approach, I guess, this last month of the season here? Because this could get really, really bad in a hurry.
Yeah.
Like, we think them being 502-7 is bad. Like, this could get nasty.
It could get worse for sure. I think I'm starting Jalen Graham at point guard.
That's a start.
And then we'll just, we'll just let him pick Let him pick a 5.
Yeah.
Let him he'll be the all-time captain, and he can be point guard if he wants. He can just pick 4 other guys. Like he'll probably pick T-Mark, and then probably pick Kai because they kind of play well off of each other. I think those guys are they the only guys that have been in double figures the last 2 games? Maybe T-Mark too. I can't remember. It's not really that important.
Yeah, T-Mark Graham.
I'm clearly joking about Jalen Graham playing point guard, but I think you should. I mean, the last 2 games, Jalen Graham led you in assists, and then Mekhi Mitchell led you in assists. So it's pretty clear that you need to play a bunch of big guys, or you're not going to have assists. I mean, you're just not.
Remember I guess it was the Auburn game when they started Brazil, Graham, and Chandler Lawson. Maybe they should start Chandler Lawson, Graham, and Kai. Just why not?
Yeah. I'm
Bay at the 2.
I think what I'm going to be locked in for down the stretch is just let Jalen Graham eat.
Yeah.
I mean, Jalen Graham's playing. He's actually, and I'm really disappointed too that Jalen Graham's playing well lately. And like if we talked about it or we wrote about it, nobody would care.
I know.
And that sucks because the kid's playing really well. Last week he averaged 15.5 points a game. Had 18 against LSU. Nobody it's just. Probably got a bunch of those points like when the game was already in hand, but I mean he played with a ton of confidence last week and just like, yeah, nobody cares. I just want him. I just kind of want to see Jalen Graham rock.
Yeah,
the rest
he's
of the
fun
way.
to watch.
Yeah, he's at least fun to watch. He can be very frustrating to watch sometimes, but I feel like there's been less of the what are you doing, and more of the like. That was nice.
Yeah. No. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Transition coast to coast Euro step finish. All right. Yeah, sure.
But what else? What else is there?
Ain't nothing, brother.
Caleb Battle can't not get his shot blocked. Tremont Mark, he's going to be fine. Like he averaged 21 last week. He's wired to score.
Does he impact winning?
Tremont?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah.
I mean, he can help you win a game like Texas A&M because he's unconscious. But I think and we've talked about this a little bit, it's almost like when he gets loose, don't really know if that's good for the offense because it just becomes stand and watch. And
right.
Clearly, based on what we've seen to this point in the season, all the guys around T-Mark, almost no matter who it is, they love to stand and watch him too.
They do that. They definitely
Unless Layden Blocker's in there, and then you might get a little bit of body movement.
Yeah. I really want to segue into who the heck is going to be back next year. We're going to do that Wednesday, and we're really going to dive into the portal. We're going to power rank. I think the real needs, and listen, I get it. Like they need an entire damn roster, but we're going to get specific with it. Dive into some more players. We might go. I think we might either pick a league, Scotty. I'm thinking out loud here. We're having a brainstorming session on air, but another thing I thought is maybe we take a look around the country at some of these places who have coaches very much on the hot seat, because those will be the guys that are probably most likely to dip. And I think there's probably a good half dozen or more schools right now that fit that mold, and maybe we could pluck from their rosters. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out. But the board will be updated for sure.
Yeah, what we have 6. Yeah, we've got 12 guys up here right now.
Yeah, a dozen of them. We're gonna make some new. Chad Baker-Mazzara once again was.
Dude, let me tell you. Let me give you a little bit of a behind the curtain look at this operation here. The last 2 games that Auburn has played, Curtis has sent me a tweet from an Auburn beat writer giving some insight on Chad Baker-Mazzara and just how his brain works. The other day, it was like he went and checked in during a media timeout, and he's like, it's almost like he's Darren McFadden, trying to run through a defense. He's like pushing, so he stiff arms somebody, spins off of him, goes over to the scores table, checks in, and he's going like this. And then he runs back and he's doing more spin moves on the coaching staff, and then he pushes one of his teammates playfully. And then the other day, you sent a text or of a tweet that he kicked the coaches out of the locker room.
Yeah.
At Ole Miss, and then Auburn kind of turned that game around.
Yep. He gave the speech, man.
Arkansas doesn't have a single guy that does that I'm aware of. from what we understand, there's just guys or a guy that stands outside the locker room during halftime.
I want to give a quick shout out to JP Pegues. Furman lost yesterday to UNC Greensboro, which is an awesome game.
Locked in on that game yesterday.
And Marcus Foster let us down because he could have made 2 free throws to tie it at the end of regulation. He did not.
He did not.
But Pegues hit a couple just big-time threes. They were down 6 with like under 2 minutes left. He hit a couple huge threes to tie that game. That dude is the truth. So if you look at Pegues and you're like, smaller, mid-major point guard, whatever, Arkansas can do better than that. No, Scotty's on to something. Like, the dude is a freaking baller. He's a winner.
Yeah, they can hit. Yeah, Pegues can play, and I'm not even worried at all that he's like 6'1".
No,
I think he's just your traditional guy. He's got some dog in him, and that's become a cliche. When you talk about basketball now, but I don't think, like with Arkansas basketball, I think you would take one person with that. You would take one.
Yeah.
Don't really care what position it comes from, but it would be good if it came from the point guard position for a change.
Yep. We done here?
46 minutes is
it's pretty good.
Long
it's
enough.
Pretty solid. You feel a little better after getting some of that off your chest? I might feel worse, actually. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
That I don't know, Bob.
I don't know, Bob. Well, whatever. We'll be back Wednesday. No, in all seriousness.
I do appreciate you getting me the Coke. That was, you said, have a Coke and a smile. I'm just like, I'll just have the Coke and nothing to smile about.
Yeah, I want you to have a Coke and a smile on this Monday. We'll get one out of you here.
Nothing to smile about in my life.
Sit in on the 6-pack with me and Andrew
I will
here
do
in a
that.
minute. If you don't smile with that, then I don't know what'll get you, man. So,
oh, man.
But no, in all seriousness, it's been a disappointing year. It was time to reflect a little bit during the bye week today. We'll look ahead to the future on Friday, and then we'll kind of get right back to it because there are still games left to be played, and that'll come on Friday at the end of the week. But appreciate everybody for tuning in as always. Been Scottie Bordelon and Curtis Wilkerson with Natty State Sports, and we will catch you guys on Wednesday.